Are there some active noise cancelling headphones that you're considering buying?
It's been quite the year with so many good ones released.
We'll talk about all the best headphones from the budget to the ultra premium, each with its own pros and cons.
At the end, we'll give you our picks, so strap in, get the popcorn, and let's go.
Goedendag, where DHRME does high-resolution music education. This is going to be a long video, so feel free to jump around using the chapters down below. Okay, let's start with the cheapest on the list.
Okay, you might want to sit down before we tell you the price on this one. It's 2 digits, $99, and sometimes it's discounted to $80. Yeah, if you thought that Soundcore made cheap headphones, then you ain't seen nothing yet. These are the cheapest on the list, and you might be thinking if you pay peanuts, you get lemons. Well, then you'd be strongly mistaken. The One More Sonoflow is a solid recommend for those on a brutally tight budget, and here's why. First off, they sound pretty damn good. You get a neutral sound signature out of the box. The bass and sub-bass are both solid. Okay, the treble isn't sparkly and the soundstage is on the narrow end, but they truly deliver in the sound quality department. Rotating departments to active noise cancelling. We'll break down noise cancelling and transparency either into excellent, good, or bad. On the One More Sonoflow, we got good noise cancelling here, guys. In good company with the Soundcore Space Q45. More on that one later. A decent suppression of the low end and high frequencies, but not exactly Bose level yet. The One More feels like a confident pair of headphones, a solid 50 hours of battery with ANC and 70 hours without. There's support for multi-point connections, and you can even turn on LDAC if you like without any compromises. And they are comfortable to wear for longer periods of use with their plush ear cups and sufficient padding on the headband. We hear you thinking it's all good and well, but there must have been corners cut. Of course there are, but that kind of applies to all headphones in one way or another. For the One More, that translated into, for example, the build and design. The Sonoflow feels cheap, and you notice while pushing the buttons on the ear cups, the jerky hinges, and very loud branding all across either side of the headband. Those buttons are spaced out well, so you can differentiate between them, but what we didn't like is where the power button got placed, on the front side of the right ear cup. Very inconvenient to press, and you'll be using it a lot since it also doubles as the play, pause, or answer hang up button. And when you do use that button to answer a phone call, you'll be fine until the wind starts to blow. Find shelter then.
Popsicle, icicle, test. 1, 2, 3.
While on calls, you also cannot change the ANC mode. You're stuck on transparency. The app is bare bones. This can appeal to some of you minimalists out there. In that case, here's another feature that's missing. Smart pause. By ranking these headphones overall relative to the others, tier A being the highest and tier B a level below, these would be tier B.
The Soundcore Space Q45. What an incredible product Anchor has brought out. Not gonna lie, the price of $150 at launch made us quite skeptical. But hot damn did they fulfill their promise. They compete on sound quality with the best out there. There are so many presets and a custom 8-band EQ in the app. You can use that to make them sound even better. The bass up toggle also adds oomph to the bass. The ANC did not disappoint us, and in our opinion, it's in the excellent category. It's able to cancel out low-end noises very well, and the transparency is also very good. The noise cancelling is even adjustable in the app, which you don't see on all headphones. That app, by the way, is quite extensive, giving you adjustability in almost every aspect of the headphones. But pumping out all that great sound and cancelling out all those not so great sounds takes a lot of hard work, and the battery life can handle it. 50 hours of juice in these bad boys, and the kicker, that number is with ANC on. Having high performance headphones is one thing, but if the experience isn't up to the mark, you don't pick them up to use them. The comfort on the Space Q45 is incredible, plush and spacious earpads. Let's also quickly touch upon the control sides of things. There's no touch, and we dig that. Good old buttons all the way. A button for power, ANC, volume, and play pause. With those 4 buttons, you can do everything for audio and even for phone calls. But on the topic of phone calls, the Space Q45 is average. They get the job done, but the speaker's voice is on the tinny side.
Popsicle, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3. Popsicle, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3.
On the other side, we've got the design. It's okay, but we do feel it's a bit bulky looking with the ear cups having ear cups. The ear cups tend to clamp on the heavier side and can get hot after long periods of use. They also don't sport a wear sensor, so they won't be pausing or resuming audio automatically based on whether or not you're wearing them. The hard case you get will protect the headphones, no problem, but where we do have a slight problem is that there is absolutely no place to store cables. You just have to fling them in there and hope they don't jump around scratching your headphones. Alright guys, these are tier A in our opinion, but let's up the ante and move into the next price segment.
Overall, the Shure Aonic 40 suffers from being in a very competitive space, but it's still good for some things. The sound is quite good, not the best, but you can play these over USB-C. Phone call controls are excellent and the voice quality itself is good, passable in noisy conditions.
Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3.
It also has multi-point on board, and weirdly it has some of the best transparency on this list. Go figure. It's also foldable and comes with a decent hard case. So what sucks? Well, it has pretty ordinary build quality. The headband does press down on the crown, and when it comes to sound, we had a whole rant about how distorted guitars sounded in our full review. And the ANC is quite poor compared to the competition here. Overall, we'd say this is a tier B product.
Alright, the Alpha Dog, the Cleer Alpha. So we haven't reviewed this on our channel yet, but maybe we should have. The Cleer Alpha is Cleer's flagship and it does a couple of things really well. First off, the sound. These have a cool trick. The Dirac Virtuo soundstage gives you a very nice wide soundstage and is great for watching movies with a lot of sound effects and things like that. To be honest, we also enjoyed it for music. The transparency mode is also pretty much top notch. And by top notch, we mean top notch. We're talking about the same tier as the Airpods Max. Excellent. Okay, these aren't quite Airpods Max because these have a certain level of white noise, but you get the picture. Painting the picture for phone calls looks good. They hold their own in noisy conditions without the voice clarity being affected. You hear a bit of the background noise, but they're quite usable nonetheless. In windy conditions, they're not bad either. You hear the wind, but you can still make out what's being said.
Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Cleer's gone all out to make this a flagship. So you get 35 hours of battery life, 40mm ironless drivers. That's good because I never like iron in my drivers. Multi-point, an in-ear sensor, a touch button combination, active noise cancelling, and is designed in California. So what's not to like? Well, to start off with, price. These were priced at a steep $279 to start with. At the time of making this video, that number is about $200, but a lot of it has to do with things beneath the specs. That multi-point, for example, it struggled while connected to just two devices. We experienced regular cutouts in audio, especially on iPhones, while connected to two devices. The sound, these can do bass really well, and while there was nothing incredibly bad about any of the frequencies, we struggled with dialing it in to meet our taste. The tuning out of the box sounds a bit congested and seems to be tuned for bass heavy music. There is an EQ and presets in the app and that can help to an extent. On the comfort, the earpads were pretty good for us, but the headband for some reason didn't feel very comfortable. Those touch controls are also quite good, but you just need to get used to the latency. And the active noise cancelling is probably the worst on this list. I mean, it does active noise cancelling, but that's about all we can say about it. Don't buy these only for ANC, but rather if you want ANC as a add-on feature. The Cleer Alphas are a tier B.
Oh boy, are the Sony WH-1000 XM4s popular. They're probably the most spotted headphones, but it makes sense. It has excellent noise cancelling, but in 2022 it's not the best of the best. It comes with an extravagant app with so many options. They're foldable and portable. They sound good. There's a lot of bells and whistles, and this was the generation where Sony finally added a wear sensor for pausing your music, and bells and whistles like Speak to Chat that automatically activate transparency mode when you're talking. Oh, it's also the last generation of Sony's premium ANC headphones that are foldable. And finally, the price swings so much that you're bound to find a good deal on them. What makes them less of a good deal is the transparency mode. Bad. The bottom of the barrel. There's just a lot of occlusion when you talk and people's voices are not very clear. We would prefer to take the headphones off to talk to people. And that's not the only reason why we would take them off, because we felt it got warmer on the ears after wearing them for a while. And we don't get a warm feeling when we're on phone calls with the Sony XM4s. The microphones are just fine. Sony just couldn't crack that until the XM5. You'll be fine in quiet environments and if you speak up, but don't push your luck though.
Pop, pop. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Overall, the Sony XM4 is tier A. Let's move on.
As the company that basically made this category of noise-cancelling headphones, Bose went back to square one with its Bose QC45. The Q stands for quiet and the C stands for comfort, and boy does it deliver. With very good ANC, it certainly lives up to its promise of quietude. The transparency is subpar, but man does Bose nail the comfort on this. We really don't know how it's possible, but Bose is the only one who comes close to half-day or all-day use for us. Not even the Bose 700 comes close. There's no nonsense with touch controls, good old reliable buttons, and the app is straightforward and usable. It has a 3-band EQ, but we found that the QC45 was excellently tuned out of the box. A much more open, clear sound, not veiled and uber bassy like Sony tends to do. If anything, on certain recordings they can be too bright. But for those of you in the audio space who think these are bad because they're Bose, that's just not true. Bose has long held the title of best headphones for calling, and even though the Sony XM5 has overtaken everyone else, we still think that the QC45 is a decent option for most of us.
Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3.
The foldable design and probably the most compact case on this list also gives it convenience points. However, for us there are just two main reasons you wouldn't buy the QC45. Number one, the battery. At just 24 hours with ANC on, it ain't bad, but we're now seeing numbers double that. And the second reason is the price. All that goodness you get, which we just talked about, comes at a very steep price. Right now these are $250, but that's not always the case. For us though, these are a solid tier A on balance.
The Technics A800 brings a lot to the table, beginning with 50 hours of battery life with ANC on. The sound quality is good, especially for clarity in the mids and higher frequencies. Technics multipoint is also some of the best in the business. We tested it with many different combinations, including Windows, Android, and iPhone, in our full comparison against the XM5, and we were super happy in every case. They're also a good set of cans for phone calls and have some of the best FuckMount controls, including the ability to mute directly from the headphones while on a call.
Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3.
So, what's not to like? Well, considering the competition, these aren't the best sounding headphones on this list. And that build quality, it's very creaky. On sound, we thought they were underwhelming when it came to one aspect only, and that's the bass. We would have loved it if the bass, especially the sub bass, had a bit more oomph to it. It appears to be more of a driver limitation than anything else. But you know what? The ANC and transparency are both good. So overall, these are a tier A product and pretty easy to recommend at the price of about $300 if you don't like any others around that range. But now we're moving up a range.
Sony's flagship WH-1000 XM5 might have seemed incremental to some people when it first came out, but we see that very differently. For example, Sony finally broke its track record of horrendous microphone quality on its headphones. It now ranks consistently high for us, and we never ever hesitate to use them for our phone calls. This even includes noisy and especially windy conditions, which is the hardest environmental condition for headphones to pass.
Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3.
They perform for calls as well as for listening to music without interference from the wind. But in order to use headphones for long phone calls, you need to be comfortable with them. Or rather, they need to be comfortable with you, or whatever. Its predecessor did okay, but Sony did better this time. The heat management is far better around your ears, and they feel much lighter on your head. And boy, do the XM5s like to be touched. Touch gestures can be hard to get right, but the latency and feedback on the ear cups were done right on this one. Another huge step up is the transparency mode. The XM4 was downright bad, and Sony has made the XM5 climb up all the way to very good. It suppresses the low ends more. The sounds and voices feel a bit more masked compared to the Airpods Max. Still audible and clear, but they're less natural sounding than the Airpods Max. But a huge improvement from the XM4 nonetheless. Now, getting back to what might have been incremental, the active noise cancelling on the XM5 is excellent. Simply magnificent engineering and a joy to wear when you just want to exist in peace. Finally, a couple of things that have remained awesome on the Sony XM5. The full-fledged app, for example, you can configure and customize to your heart's content. We like Sony's implementation of multi-point, albeit at the cost of the LDAC codec. What we particularly like is that it supports pull connection. This means you don't need to put the headphones into pairing mode. You simply select the headphones from your previously paired list and hit connect. Et voila! You can see all the connected devices in the app. There are a few things that might hold us back from recommending these headphones though. Sony feels the need to flex a lot. That full-fledged app we talked about is a bit too fully fledged. It's got 20 million sliders and a million ways to automatically pause your audio, speak to chat, aware sensor, quick attention. And we also found out that Sony keeps using AI to adjust the level of noise cancelling and doesn't always do a great job, and it gets quite annoying if you have an expectation of a predictable level of noise cancelling. Unfortunately, Sony's stock tuning out of the box for sound isn't great either. It's not very neutral and the bass is huge. If you start using presets or the EQ, you can make them sound way better because the hardware is on board to make a difference. And wrapping this section up, we've got two gripes with the design. One, the black color starts looking oily as soon as you touch them. Luckily, the lighter color doesn't have this problem. And finally, the headphones don't fold, so you are left with a slightly larger case footprint. But any way you slice it, the XM5 is tier A.
We really like the Sennheiser Momentum 4. Really like them. They sound fat and nice and have the best battery life of all premium headphones we've seen on this channel. Of the ones that do noise cancelling anyway. When it comes to noise cancelling and transparency, the Momentum is real. These are pretty good. We rank them as good, but we really think that Sennheiser has made strides in its noise cancelling. The transparency though is top tier stuff. Extremely loud, even though it's not as clear as the Airpods Max, and although the build isn't as stylish as its predecessor, the Momentum 3, these are light and comfortable. There are no pinchy metal bits to cause discomfort. The plush padding on the ear cups are just a pillow for your pinning. We also like the microphone quality and that ANC has a wind noise cancellation mode, which means you can walk around in all your windy places while listening and talking.
Pop, popsicle, ice, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3. Pop, popsicle, ice, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3.
On the downside, these have just a couple. Number 1, yes, these sound good, but that stock tuning is just disappointing. If you plan to buy them though, that can be remedied. These have a sound check feature to tune the music to your liking, or just a 3-band EQ. And we're pretty confident that you can find a good tuning using a combination of the two. Number 2, these are sort of pricey. Yes, we know they're new, so we're fairly confident that these will be discounted in the near future. But till that future arrives, you'd probably be better with our next pick. So overall, these are tier A.
The Bose 700 is a confident pair of headphones. It's 3 years old already, but acts like it's a 2022 flagship. And we get it. The build is still very modern with premium design elements and materials. But what's most interesting is that the ANC is still incredible. And some of the big boys on this list don't match up to this. It's very good and in company with the likes of the younger Sony WH-1000 XM4. The transparency mode, on the other hand, is good with the likes of its younger cousin, the Bose QC45. The sounds and voices are not as masked as the Sony XM4 and there's no occlusion effect. The effect is similar to the Sony XM5 actually in terms of clarity, but marginally worse in terms of the volume it lets in. And Bose does very well in quiet conditions. But because the mics are very strong, they pick up background noise also in all conditions.
Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3.
You do get the ability to mute the microphone straight from your headphones. Other than that, there are a few things that put us off on the Bose 700. The battery is definitely below average at 20 hours and that will degrade over time. And that premium design we started off talking about, well, we started to see some wear and tear, especially around the part where the headbands slide across the ear cups. And that brings us to another downside, and that's the unfoldability. Bose maybe was the OG of this design, not making headphones foldable before Sony and Apple started doing it. The Bose does have a more restrained and balanced sound signature, but what it lacks is the customization. The app has a mere 3-band EQ, and a mainstream feature that's milked dry by Sony but nowhere to be found on the Bose is Smart Pause. So it's audio FOMO all the way. Despite these shortcomings, this one is still a tier A. So, since sound is one of the main reasons to buy headphones, we thought we'd give a shout out to one of the best sounding true wireless headphones we've ever heard, the Edifier Stax Spirit S3. Incredible detail and resolution and clarity for wireless headphones, and it has Snapdragon sound on board. And the bonus, it comes in at $400. Now, that's not cheap because there's no ANC, no transparency to be found anywhere. But when we interviewed Snapdragon Sound and asked them for their favorite headphones, these came up, and we can totally see why. Now, this is an exception for this list since it doesn't do noise cancelling, but the sound was so special we thought you'd like to know. It's not perfect though, and we lay out the details in our full review, which you can find here. But let's proceed with this list for now.
Let's talk about the Bowerses and the Wilkinses. We did a full review on the PX7 S2, but we did have a defective unit, so it wasn't a full review. So let's start with the PX7 S2. We do like that Bowers and Wilkins try to give their headphones a distinct look. Not everyone likes the look, but at least you're getting personality. And it's the same with sound. You're getting personality. It's not a bland, boring set of cans. Bowers and Wilkins make certain choices which really works for a certain kind of music. The multi-point is reliable and you get a list of devices in the app too. The buttons are excellently designed and easy to hit. No touch controls to waste your time. They're quite decent for transparency and the polymer headband seems quite stiff and tough. However, on the PX7 S2, the clamping force felt a bit hard even after adjusting the headband. The transparency mode is good, but the ANC is surprisingly bad and behind the competition. I mean, if you want, you can play music at low volumes and avoid your fellow man, but that's not the level of ANC we should expect at this price. So, what are you paying for exactly? Battery life is middle of the road at 30 hours. Overall, we think that the S2 is a good product, tier A even, but value for money, not so much.
Apple. For those drowning in applesauce. Is the Airpods Max an automatic choice? Well, we're sorry to say, but it kinda is. Of course, a lot of things are Apple exclusive, like customizing the Airpods Max or getting the automatic nearby notification or using Find My, spatial audio, etc, etc, etc. So yes, you can use these headphones with Android as well or other devices that support Bluetooth, but you're not getting the best out of it. But other than that, the sound, build quality, ANC and transparency of the Max are just top notch and literally in the top bracket for all of those things. There are of course complaints that Apple has nerfed the ANC with an over-the-ear update. Still, when we went through all these headphones on one day to test noise cancelling against each other, we didn't really notice it, but that might be something to watch out for. Also, those delightful controls, the stepless volume control using the digital crown is just unmatched in its implementation. Apple has really nailed it with just 2 control elements that work with gloves or naked fingers. Speaking of naked, the Max is always pretty much naked because leather lingerie of a case gives it next to no protection. Just a bizarre design choice from a company that prides itself on design. There's also no EQ for the Max, which makes fixing its deficiencies harder. The battery life is one of the lowest on this list and it's rocking a nice USB-C connection. Nah, just kidding. The next version probably will, but for now we're stuck with Lightning. And if you want to use these wired, you can. For a measly $35 more, you can get a Lightning to 3.5mm cable that you can't use with any other headphones. And if you're being honest, we didn't love its microphones for phone calls.
Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, Testing. 1, 2, 3.
In addition, two other major reasons to not get the Max are the price and the comfort. The clamping force still is strong, and yes, you can adjust the headband, so it's actually not too bad even after months of use, but these clamp pretty clampily. But the price is still one of the highest on this list, and while it's a tier A product that does a lot of things well to justify its price, it's still not cheap. But if you think this isn't cheap, then get a load of the next set of ultra premium headphones.
Look, we'll be honest, we like Bang & Olufsen. We've given their in-ear buds rave reviews, and these headphones aren't new. And a couple of things about them have aged well, and a couple of things haven't. Their cheaper Beoplay HX is Bang & Olufsen's attempt to make cans affordable. And by Bang & Olufsen standards, well, yes, it's affordable. The ear cups are round and the sound is good, but not as polished as the next set of headphones. They sound just a little bit harsher on the treble. Not bad, mind you, but not as sublime as the next set of headphones. Also, the touch controls are very finicky, and the rotate your finger to increase volume feels like something from another time. It's rather buggy, and we found it difficult to use the touch control area. I've been trying to figure it out for a while, man, but it ain't great. In addition, the ANC is just okay and the transparency is good. The microphones try to aggressively cancel out noise, and in our experience, these are just average for calls in noisy and windy conditions.
Popsicle, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3. Popsicle, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3.
Overall, if these are on a very steep discount, sure, go ahead and get them. These are a tier A product, but the price is totally wrong. We cannot in good conscience recommend these at full price.
And then we have the more expensive Bang & Olufsen, the Beoplay H95. First off, the sound, these sound phenomenal. These are the best sounding headphones on this list. The Bang & Olufsen H95. It's not the I put them on and I was blown away kind of headphones. There's no major crazy bass bump or some weird soundstage thing or something that wows you when you first put them on, but take some time, bring out some challenging music or just regular old music, and you'll see how clearly and crisply music is represented. Bang & Olufsen's earbuds often have the property of not overdoing anything. It's like a perfectly executed fine dining dish for which you have to appreciate the nuance and subtle elements. Not like a spicy vada pav that makes your mornings after very fiery. Now, both of these kinds of food have their place, and Bang & Olufsen executes that fine dining bit really well. Three other things that the H95 scores excellently on are comfort, controls, and design. Those vegan unfriendly sheepskin pads are very comfortable and they have reasonable clamp, but not Airpods Max or Bowers and Wilkins levels. Their dials for volume and ANC are excellent, next only to the Airpods on this list for superb volume control. But the touch surface has some latency and feels a bit dated now. And of course, you get a solid metal case, the only metal case on this list. It really feels luxurious and it can take a few scratches and dings. It does multi-point and has an incredible 38 hours of battery life. But we don't really see ourselves recommending the H95 to everyone. So what's not to like about them? Well, let's start with the mics.
Popsicle, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3. Popsicle, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3.
It's very similar to the HX performance-wise, not just the mics, but also the ANC and the transparency. Average ANC and good-ish transparency. The multipoint can be buggy with sometimes music cutting out every couple of seconds randomly, especially when you start playing something and it gets better as you go along. And the original retail price of between 800 and 900 euros, we think these might be about 400 or 500 euros too expensive. For sound, there's nothing better on this list for us. An excellent tier A product from Bang & Olufsen in many ways.
Okay, if the PX7 S2 was not an easy recommendation, the PX8 should be an all-out no-no, right? Well, not quite. The materials have gotten an upgrade from plastic to aluminium and the ear cups are just much more comfortable. The sound is certainly better, and if money were no object, the PX8 would be our choice between the two Bowerses and Wilkinses. But when it comes to the subject of money, is the PX8 worth twice as much as the S2? Wow, where to begin? The ANC and transparency is almost exactly the same. We found the mics to be lacking for phone calls in windy and noisy conditions.
Popsicle, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3.
The battery life is still the same. I mean, seriously, this product is for the kind of people who show up in a store, look at the box and say, wow, that looks good. Bowers & Wilkins is a premium brand, so I'm going to buy it. It's an A-tier product, sure, absolutely no doubt about it. But it doesn't win a single category here except maybe the looks, and we'd argue that the Bang & Olufsens make the Wilkins Bauer. Am I speaking French? Because
these headphones from the French audio company were released just as we finished this list. The Focal Bathys. Yes, these sound pretty good, but we are probably gonna get killed in the comments here. They didn't blow us away. And the thing is, I don't think that Focal is going for mind-blowing either. To be clear, there's nothing that's really wrong with these headphones. Focal is going for an accurate sound, but these can get loud. Wow. And speaking of loud, they sound much better at higher volumes than at lower volumes. They have outstanding imaging, and there's no way for us to prove this, but we think these sound fairly different on iPhone and Android. Anyway, they also have a 5-band EQ in the app. Their looks are also polarizing, and you know what? We like the pattern, but are not crazy about having a lit up logo on both our ear cups, which can luckily be turned off in the app. Also, we think these are on the bulky side, even though overall they were very comfortable and feel quite premium. In terms of phone calls, not bad. Even with noise of cars and the wind in the background, these did a fairly decent job.
Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3.
These also come with multi-point on board, and it worked for the most part. It wasn't as flawless as some others we've used, but still pretty good. Good ANC and very good transparency round out the highlights for the Focal Bathys. The Bathys is certainly tier A, there's no doubt about it, but is it worth the price? Well, we've said a lot about it. What do you think? So which headphones would I pick? Oh, you really do care. Thank you for reaching this part of the video. If I lived exclusively in the Appleverse, it would mean that I'd be very rich, and in that case, I'd use the Airpods Max because it does some things objectively well. Sound, transparency, ANC, and the controls. But I'm not rich and I don't live in the Appleverse. In that case, it would have to be between the Sennheiser Momentum 4 and the Sony WH-1000 XM5. The Sony is already cheaper than it used to be, and although it's not the best sounding set of cans out there, it's extremely capable, and all those improvements Sony has made and that unbelievable comfort and microphone performance, there's a lot to love about it. Ditto for the Sennheiser. Fat bass, beats the Sony for transparency but loses to the Sony on ANC. Calls are good, battery life is better. What's not to love here? If it was sound and only sound, I'd pick the Bang & Olufsen Beoplay H95. Oh, I'm not done yet. What if I were on a budget? The Soundcore Space Q45. It's just incredible. Even at $100 more, we could see people actually getting it. So at the price it actually retails, it's an absolute steal.
Now, let me steal the spotlight for a bit. I look for a few things that make me want to pick up a pair of headphones. They need to be comfortable for long work from home days, usable microphones for all those video calls, multi-point support, and excellent noise cancelling. My popular brand pick in that case would be the Sony WH-1000 XM5. But if I didn't have the luxury of testing so many headphones or the luxury of having luxury, then my recommendation to Kevin as the non-YouTuber would be the Soundcore Space Q45. For the price, it ticks all my requirements, despite the microphones and noise cancelling being slightly a tier lower than the Sony XM5.
That's it, you guys made it. All the headphones we talked about will be linked to in the description down below. This video was a lot of work to put together, not just talking to the camera, but all that testing and comparing a bunch of headphones, and it was really a lot of work. So we hope it has helped you make a purchase decision, or that you at least enjoyed watching it if nothing else. If you did, consider becoming a patron of the channel or a YouTube member. It will really help us and spur us on to invest more time and resources into DHRME. You've been phoning heads and we've been DHRME. Namaste.